You've talked about your sobriety journey before. And I've had people in my life, in my direct family, who have struggled with substance abuse, alcoholism, extended family as well. And I always think about what was the moment where it could have gone either way? What was the moment where it went, it could have been, okay, this turns out okay, or now we're in full on addiction and this is a serious problem. And have you thought about it all with you, like what that moment was?
Yeah. So kind of the question of like, where was that fork in the road? I I ask this question constantly because and the most common one is when you see a homeless guy on the side of the road
Yeah.
and you see him and you're like, what was the last decision? Like, don't get me wrong, that last decision wasn't like you're a millionaire or you're living homeless, but it's a culmination of a million little decisions. But yeah, it's always like, what was the last one? What was the last thing you did that like you could have dropped back? And what was the cause of the first night sleeping outside? Like the first night, like you get kicked out. So yeah, I always think of that stuff. For me, it wasn't really trying to think how to say this. It was the disappointment from everyone around me.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I had a great time. Like people are like, oh, you had a problem drinking. It's like, no, I was fucking awesome at drinking. Like, I never had a problem. I never had a bad time. Like it was, but it was the effect of it, the repercussions, but for me, the real thing was just the disappointment from my parents. Though they saw me, there's probably a couple. I remember once, nothing bad happened, but my mother saw me and she just started crying, like just bawling. And I was like, the fuck's the problem? And this sounds kind of funny. I came home, I was like 3 sheets to the wind. And I went into her room and I just like swan dived on the bed, just like, hey mom, I'm home. And that like got her. And I was like, what happened? And she was like, that's what your father used to do. Like the same thing when he would come home. And I was like, ooh, fuck. Because my dad's been sober my whole life. There's that. And then the really disappointing one that kind of like irked me for a long time was I got her. Well, no, I didn't get arrested, but I got in trouble with the cops. I got sent home with some paperwork or something. And I came in, my dad was on the phone with like his brother or something. And I give him the paperwork and he just couldn't be bothered. He was just like, yep. And I was like, oh fuck, he doesn't care. Before it would be like this big, there's a big thing. Like your kid comes home with the police and you're in all kinds of trouble. Like you expect your parents to be up in arms. And my dad was just so calm. It seemed like he didn't care. And I was like, ooh, I need to make a change. That's how it started. The big thing too was like a huge network of my friends were sober. Like I didn't seek them out. It was just like that's who I was around. And those are the guys I would go dirt biking with, four wheeling with. And I was super young. Like I started hanging out with this one group. I was 12 and they were like in their 20s. And my dad would always, why'd you go hang out with Nate? Go hang out with Nate, go riding, all this stuff. To me, I was like, this is weird. My dad wants me hanging out with a 20-year-old. And Nate would come by. He had a pickup truck. My dad and I would load my dirt bike in the back and I'd go off with Nate. And, years later, I'm like, oh, duh. Nate was sober. So my dad knew if I was with Nate, I was going to be sober. So so the day I made that change, it was a very easy switch. Like I already had a network. I already had people to talk to, all that type of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Glad I made it. I mean, without a doubt,
Mhm.
you know, if not saved my life, but that's definitely upgraded it.
Yeah. Something that my brother said to me, because he's dealt with a lot of addicts in his life. And he said that, addicts don't get cured. They just find another addiction. And that's working out or whether it's something, but if they channel that energy into something positive that helps them out, was that kind
So
of the case?
I kind of had this epiphany years ago because it's like, I joke, I'm like, no, like if you're not doing it to excess, what's the point? Like if one's good, two is better.
Mhm.
And I've seen it with my dad. Like I've never seen my dad take a drink. He's been sober my entire life. But it's like, no, he's not just an alcoholic, he's a holic. If he's doing something, he's
Yeah.
doing it to the extreme. He becomes obsessed with it and he masters it and just he wants to do it. That's it. And so I realized that. And it's when I first realized it was when I had moved back to Vermont and was going to UVM. I had nothing. I was or at least I felt like the biggest fucking loser that existed. I'm I left the Olympic training center. Like I was the Olympic hopeful in my hometown of my group of friends. Like that was my identity. Never. So my weightlifting career in my eyes at the time never came to fruition, never did what I wanted to do. But now I'm 6 years older than anyone in my class. I'm basically starting college at 24 years old. So that's not a good thing. All your friends are graduating, getting jobs, getting married. And I had to move back home into my childhood bedroom. And it was just like, fucking A, what did I do with my life? What decisions did I make? And I just broke up with a long-term girlfriend, just moved home. Like nothing felt great. Nothing was good in my life. But I was in school. And because I had nothing else, I was like, I'm just going to fill my day with school. I'm just going to become obsessed with it. If I have nothing else, I'm going to be the best student I can be. And so that's what I did. And then I realized I was like nobody has an issue with the fact that I'm clearly have this unhealthy relationship with how much I'm studying. I'm in the library for a day, start to finish. I'm going in on Saturdays at first thing in the morning. I'm not leaving till it's nighttime. And like nobody has complained. Like if I were doing this with another addiction, and so that's kind of when I had the epiphany of, oh, I just need to be addicted to something that has a positive outcome. And for a little while, that was school. That's where I got my self-confidence from or whatever, my fulfillment. And then when CrossFit started, I was like, yeah, there's no way. Like you're training 2-3 times a day, 6 days a week. If it were anything else that had a negative side effect, people would have an intervention for you. But I was like, nobody's complaining that I'm making a good living and I'm traveling the world. So it's just kind of like, all right, I'll just make sure that whatever I take an interest in, I know what I'm going to do with this interest. I know how obsessed I'm going to become with it if it sticks. So just make sure that it's something with a good end result, something that, is actually usable and not a hindrance to everyone around you.